Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you are watching or listening to this, and welcome to Link Up Leaders, your direct link to leaders in supply chain and e-commerce. I am your producer and co-host, Lisa Kinski, and joined as always by Francois Jeffrey. Francois, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Lisa?
Good. Oh no, we have a delay again. It's going to be one of those mornings. Oh well. Well, let's go ahead and get started since we are running just a little bit behind. We're having a Monday kind of Tuesday over here, but that's okay. Today we have joining us the founder and CEO of Unicargo, Refael Elbaz. Refael, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much. Good morning, guys. Happy to be with you.
Good morning. Now, but it's not morning for you, though. Is it? Where are you calling in from?
I'm based in Israel. Our headquarters are in Israel. It's 5:45 now, p.m.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
gotcha.
That's not bad. Yeah, it's not the worst.
Yeah, but again, we in the logistics industry, this is like midday now.
Yeah, especially being where you are right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's midday. We still have a long day ahead.
Yeah.
Well, so
Refael,
just before the show,
go ahead.
Oh man, this is going to be rough. Right before the show, you were telling us that there's a little bit of a unique story behind the pronunciation of your name. Do you want to get into that real quick?
No, honestly, it's embarrassing. So let's skip that.
Let's skip it. Okay.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, no problem at all. I think one of the most important topics, and it's not the most sexy topic. This is a topic not too many people talked about. I think before COVID, but I think has really been highlighted throughout 2020 and 2021, which is international shipping and logistics. So we're very excited to have you here, especially from Unicargo and having so much experience as you have. We could obviously see the very vivid containers that you're holding on to and not giving to the rest of the world behind you.
That's exactly the situation.
Yeah, it looks like you probably stored some stuff in there. But if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your background and sort of how you got started in the shipping and logistics industry.
All right, so that's a good question. So basically, I'm 36 years old. And I've been dealing with international shipping, logistics, importing, private labeling. I started as a private labeling. I lived in Australia when I was around 21, and I actually did a lot of importing. I visited China a lot, dealt with manufacturing, private labeling, quality control, and used to import a lot of goods for retail to Australia, from China to Australia. And I just fell in love with this industry. After a couple of years, I've sold my business and I thought, right, what should I do? And I've just realized that I just love dealing with logistics, with customs. So I went in and I studied it, and I didn't study in school. I just went to work in shipping and logistics companies. And I started from the bottom and became export manager. I dealt with air freight, dealt with sea freight. And fast forward a couple of years ahead, I basically stumbled upon Amazon FBA. That was somewhere 2014, 2015, where some seller from Israel came to me as an export manager in one of the shipping companies here in Israel, and asked to move products to Amazon. And again, talking about 6-7 years ago, when it wasn't so popular, and in the traditional freight forwarding, the first question you would ask the guy, all right, so you got a quote, you approve the quote, your shipping quote. The first question you would ask is, all right, who's the consignee? Where do we deliver that to? And he said, Amazon. All right, cool. So give me the phone number and the contact person name so we can schedule the delivery with them, because that's how it works. You can't just show up somewhere with a truck full of product. And he said to me, no, it doesn't work this way. It's Amazon. You can't call them and you can't just show up. There is a system behind it. And I said, what are you talking about? You cannot move an international shipment without a proper receiver with a name and a phone number and exact address. And who are you? Do you have an importer of record? Do you have a company you are importing to the US? You live in Israel. How do you plan on doing that? And he was clueless about the question I asked him. And he told me, I don't know. That's what I need to do. And I said, listen, forget about this conversation. You're going to lose your money if you do what you want to do. And we started fighting. He said, you don't understand anything. And I told him, you don't understand anything. And I went back after a day and, being an entrepreneur, and I was very curious about this conversation, and I started to look it up. And all of a sudden, I have discovered this huge ecosystem of businesses, and foreign entities and companies from all over the world shipping and selling products on Amazon. And I came back to this guy and said, you know what, you're right. I was the idiot. Give me one day, I'll find you the solution. And then I went in, I studied it, I learned it, and I gave him the solution. And basically, we shipped about half a ton, 500 kg by air. And I thought to myself, I lived in Australia. I used to sell on eBay when I was younger, and I had a bit of an understanding of e-commerce. And I said, half a ton, 500 kg. How did you plan to sell all of that product? And I said, I'll probably never hear from him again. And the next thing I know, 2 weeks after the first shipment, he came back and he wanted to move double the quantity. And then I said, all right, there's something going on here. And that's where I started to really dive deep into, go deeper into this industry, started talking to sellers, to people who ran courses on how to sell on Amazon. Again, it was very early stages of the whole, Amazon FBA as we know it today. And basically right there and then I quit my job and I decided I'm going to start a company who dealt with e-commerce logistics, providing solution to just that type of clients who are basically falling between the cracks of regular international shipping companies who didn't know how to deal with these foreign importers and Amazon and the complexity of scheduling with Amazon and how, because it was very different to what we know in the traditional freight forwarding industry. And I took a bet. I didn't know how fast and big they'll grow. I was lucky to take that, chance and putting all my chips into, opening a company who's dedicated to Amazon sellers and e-commerce companies and entrepreneurs. And right then and there, end of 2014, 2015, I started the company. And today we celebrate 6 years of the company, and we are now over 100 employees around the world. So we grew very fast as this whole ecosystem and e-commerce boom grew with us. We grew with it, So our headquarters are here in Israel. We have our offices, Unicargo in China. It's called Unicargo China. We have offices in the States, but the headquarters, the main VPs are here in Israel. Basically today, most of our clients are not from Israel, like 20% of our clients are from Israel. The rest of our clients are just from all over the world. We deal with the Romanian sellers, Russian sellers, Ukrainian sellers, Indian sellers, Chinese sellers, a lot of US sellers, a lot of sellers from Australia, Japan, South Korea. It's just all over the place, and it's beautiful to see how big this thing gets. We work with smaller sellers, like people who are just starting with doing their first shipment, and we work with some of the biggest sellers in the world of Amazon, people who move 600, 700 shipments a month. So we have a huge variety of different clients. We have different teams to deal with different types of clients. And yeah, we are scaling up with this industry. I found out the hard way that scaling up is one of the most difficult things you can go through. Scaling up fast, from 20 employees to 50 employees, from 50 employees to 70 to 80, with volumes going up. So that's our big challenges right now, to build that right management structure and SOPs and workflows and systems. And we wanna bring more value than just shipping your products from A to Z. Like, we are now working very hard on becoming a digital freight forwarding company with a digital platform where people can book, quote, trace their shipments online. Our main aspiration and main vision is to connect the marketplace to the logistics, because there isn't such thing today. You have inventory management systems and you have freight forwarders who give you some track and trace tool to your shipment, but nobody really connected it, right? Because again, if you are selling digitally, we can connect to your store, whether it's Amazon, eBay, Magento, WooCommerce, Shopify, you name it. All these digital platforms are digital, which means we can have that data of their sales, their inventory levels, and make smart decision if we connect the logistics. Let me give you an example. So if you're selling 30 units a day and you have 1,000 units left in stock, and we know that your container with that SKU is now leaving China, but all of a sudden it fell for an exam in customs, which we know that exam takes 2 weeks, we can make very smart decision based on that SKU and your selling velocity, and we can tell you, hey, according to that data, now you need to stop your PPC campaigns. You need to raise your prices. You gotta stop your sales because otherwise you'll go out of stock. And there isn't just such a system today that actually connects your shipping and the whole journey of that SKU, and really connects it with your store and your sales velocity and your sales number, and make smart decision according to that. So that's our main aspiration. That's where we are going, and we are starting by digitalization of the whole logistics, the whole shipping process. And the next phase, the next phase would be to connect the selling point, the actual marketplace, to that logistics infrastructure, and then provide with accurate data. So that's the development of our vision. When you start a company, you don't think that far. You just want to do good. You want to bring value. You want to provide a solution. And again, with the evolution of the company, the more you grow, the more you understand your market, the more you understand where you can bring more value. Because, by the end of the day, we are here to provide value. Novoland, Unicargo, you name it. Any company that doesn't provide real value to its customer, to the marketplace, it's a hoax. It doesn't have, it won't exist too much. And we see it a lot in the high-tech industry, where people just raise a lot of money and tell a beautiful story, but there isn't real value behind a real business, not a business plan, but actual how to make money out of that value. So basically, we are here to bring value to the e-commerce businesses, the e-commerce entrepreneurs. And we do have a lot of experience. Today, we manage, I would say, 4,000 or 5,000 shipments every month, whether it's air, ocean, air express, domestic, moving trucks between 3PLs and Amazon in Europe or in Japan or in Canada, and obviously in the US. US has been the biggest marketplace by far, and it will probably stay that way for many years ahead.
Right.
That's what we do for a living, moving products for e-commerce businesses and mainly Amazon sellers.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can't do anything with just manufacturing. You can't do anything with just marketing campaigns. It has to get from one point to another, which is very important. I love that you painted that vision and mission so clearly, because it is, and that's actually a big conception. I don't remember how to say it. One of those words for our podcast is really merging supply chain and e-commerce, because this really isn't talked about enough. A lot of people emphasize on marketing and PPC, or they emphasize on cookie cutter methods for working with manufacturers, but they don't talk about merging all of this together. And that sort of leads me to the next point of your background. And it's really interesting. I'd love to get your perspective on when you were working with the more traditional retailers or distributors versus working with, we could call them Amazon sellers, we could call them online retailers. But what are these key differences? What did traditional retailers bring you versus how Amazon sellers handle things today?
That's a great question, by the way. So the main difference with traditional retailers and e-commerce entrepreneurs or online retailers is that usually the traditional retailers will have a structure. They'll have a purchasing manager, they'll have planning, they'll have logistics manager, they'll have professional people to deal with us, with the service provider. And when we compare it to an Amazon seller, obviously when you just start, you are clueless. You have no idea what our Incoterms are, what is your import compliance, what are you allowed to import and what, you have no clue. And I still see a lot of sellers, new sellers, still fall for that importing first aid kit without knowing this is a medical device in the USA, without knowing they need to have their FDA registration with their supplier, and as an import they need an FDA registration. So there are a lot of newbie mistakes that Amazon sellers usually do, where compared to traditional retailers, because it's structured, because there are much more experience there are much more resources, and usually, again, capital, the way they operate is completely different. It's much more professional, whereas online retailers usually, again, and I emphasize usually, they need much more, someone to take them hand in hand, someone to guide them through, someone to actually teach them. And that's exactly why our company succeeded, because if an Amazon seller, a newbie Amazon seller will go to Kuehne Nagel or DHL or one of the big juggernauts, he won't even get replies because his questions would be so, unexperienced that nobody will want to deal with them. And that's exactly what we understood. And we said, right, we're going to give love to these new guys. We're going to give them education. We're going to do the webinars. We're going to do the podcast. We will explain to them. We'll have people going on a calls with them and explain what they need. And we actually showed them love. And what we got back is a lot of love. We are working in the e-commerce era. We are all digital. We are all on the internet. So when we showed them that love, we got the love back by recommendation, people sending people to us. We never spent a dime on marketing, by the way. All we did is provide love and value to these e-commerce businesses, and that's how we grew a very nice size of a company. And it's kind of a miracle because, when I talk to traditional business people and I say, hey, you know what? I built a 100-employee company and we are profitable from day one, and we never invested a dime in marketing. We never even put any capital into the company because we just grew it from ground up. They don't even believe it. It's conceived as a miracle. And that's the beautiful thing in the e-commerce. But back to your question, today, as the business grows and evolves, we see more and more Amazon sellers starting small and growing up, growing. We see more logistics manager come into place, and we see more structured Amazon businesses. And I actually love seeing it. People who actually create huge companies that all they do is sell online. And so the gap between the traditional retailers and online retailers is starting to close down, because the more the e-commerce retailers, the online retailers grow, they start to form these correct logistic structures with planning and purchasing and quality control and logistics manager to work with all these providers like supplier, quality control companies, freight forwarders, compliance. So the gap closes down, which is very good. And we rarely saw it 6-7 years ago, and today we see it a lot. So I guess the more this grows, the gap will get closer and closer. So it will close. The difference between the traditional retailers and online retailers will shrink and shrink and shrink, and that's a good thing because it means that this business is growing. Those smaller online retailers, they grew, they understood how to build a proper structure, because going back to what you said earlier, supply chain, in my eyes, is at least 50% of this business. People tend to look at marketing, at product selection, at PPC, copywriting, how to take the right pictures and how to draft the right listing. But supply chain is a very big portion of that business. How do you work with your shipping? Do you have products to sell or you don't have products to sell? That's supply chain, whether you have a product to sell or not. I see a lot of people, they, especially new guys or smaller sellers, they'll go, when they want a shipping quote, they'll go and compare between 20 different freight forwarders. They'll choose the cheapest one, they'll nickel and dime you, but at the end, they'll get a shitty service, a much slower service. Yeah, they saved $200 on the quote, but guess what? They had 2 weeks where they didn't sell their products because it was not there. Where if you spend a bit more on a reliable partner, on someone that, it's not that cheapest, Chinese guy, again, nothing against China, yeah, but the cheapest one-man show and no transparency, low reliability, and we see it all the time, So, supply chain is a very, very big portion today not today, it was always there, but I think it's a huge portion of that business. Manufacturing, planning, quality control, and especially shipping. And now with Amazon restrictions, you add to that pile, 3PL, inventory management outside of Amazon. How much stock do you keep on those 3PL? How do you measure the time between time to market from the 3PL to Amazon? The whole business model has changed, with COVID, with the disruption. We didn't even talk about what's going on in the logistics world. That's a mess. That's a complete mess. Nobody ever seen that industry in such bad shape. Nobody, ever. This is the first time in history. Container prices have never been so high. Equipment shortage has never been so severe. You want to book a shipment, a container today from China, from northern China to Amazon to US, you won't have a booking for the next month and a half. That's absurd. And the whole business and planning has changed right now, and it's tougher for the smaller seller because you need bigger pockets. Right now, the right methodology will be producing more quantities and just shipping bigger loads and keep them in the market. Like if you're selling on Amazon US, you want to have your products in the US in a 3PL ready to go to market without being so reliant on international movements. Because if it takes you a month to get a booking and another month to produce and another couple of weeks just to get it off the vessel and ready to go into Amazon, you're looking at about 60, 70 days cycle. Yeah, that's a bit problematic where, and usually before COVID, that was the business methodology. You'd produce and send directly to Amazon. You would produce and directly to Amazon. Right now, it doesn't work anymore. You need to produce much bigger quantities, keep them at the market, whether if you're in the US, you got to keep it in the 3PL in the US, and then when you need products, you have it right at the market. So your go-to market should be much faster. And international shipping does not provide that, unfortunately, anymore. Even though you cannot avoid international shipping, the way you're planning and where you structure your 3PL is very, very important. Again, you ask every seller. You can't do your business today without a proper 3PL, right? The big ones need many 3PL, multiple 3PL. If you're selling hundreds and thousands of units a day, one 3PL won't be the right choice. You need a 3PL in the West Coast, in the East Coast, and someone in the Midwest or in the South. So you can start doing zone skipping instead of moving products from coast to coast. So the planning and supply chain even become more crucial and important due to COVID and the disruption that we are all seeing and experiencing. I'm not even talking about the prices. I'm talking about getting your products to the market.
Well, and can we touch on that a little bit? You had mentioned like how there's not enough containers to go around right now. And I feel like you're the right person to ask why. Where are they?
In his office.
In his office.
Everybody asks that. So here's how it works. a vessel moves out of China, yeah? A vessel is like a bus. It goes through stops. So for example, if you have a vessel going out of Shanghai, it'll probably go to Ningbo after Shanghai and then Shenzhen. And from Shenzhen, it'll go to Busan, which is South Korea. And from Busan, it'll go to Los Angeles and then to Oakland and then to Seattle, right? Dropping containers at all these ports of discharge. And what happens is that now the vessel gets stuck in LA for 2 weeks because COVID. Yeah, COVID happened. There is a huge backlog. Shortage of drivers, shortage of 3PLs workers, containers are not moving fast enough. So if the vessel that is like a bus who's doing his voyage like a round trip, if it gets stuck in LA for 2 weeks and then gets stuck in Oakland because that's the route for another 5 days and then gets stuck in Seattle for another 3 days, it cannot get back on time to Shanghai, to its original port of loading. Yeah, so it delays 3 weeks. So that whole line is being blanked. In the professional lingo, it's called blank sailing. So the shipping line just canceled that week voyage because the ship did not return on time. And sometimes they canceled 2 voyages, 2 weeks. There is no vessel because it's still on the way from its destination ports. It's still on the way to the US. So right now, you're looking at 30 to 40% blank sailings from China, which means those regular vessels that was supposed to leave China, they just didn't get back on time, and they just cancel a whole vessel. And what happens in China, production keep on going. There are more and more containers piling up to waiting for export. And I don't know if you know that, but US imports, we see a surge about 30 to 40% this year compared to last year. So there are much more containers to ship, much more products to ship because consumer demand is growing. Mm-hmm. So you have much more containers compared to last year. You have much less vessels because they get stuck at destinations. Again, it happens in Europe as well. Same thing in Europe. Suez Canal problem, just add on oil to that fire. Mm-hmm. And so now you don't have enough vessels to carry all these containers. That's your space problem. Now, the second problem that this is causing is those empty containers. There is severe empty container shortage. What happens, these vessels, when they come back to China, they bring in thousands and thousands of empty containers from destination countries. So not only they don't get back in time, they don't bring in enough empty containers. So now you have a supplier sitting on a pile of products, his whole yard, the supplier, the factory, filled with product. He cannot get an empty container. The freight forwarder cannot get an empty container. And now you get a butterfly effect when we see today that a lot of factories are actually sending people home because they cannot manufacture. Because they don't have a place to put those products because these products are not moving out. And so production lead time is also being affected by that. And that whole thing started with COVID. Around COVID, we all expected, all industry experts in shipping, when COVID just started in March last year, we all prepared for a deep decline in imports because we thought, all right, this is like a world crisis. People will save their money, people will not buy, and there will be less imports, and that's what we thought. But what actually happened is that people did not spend money on vacations. People did not go out to restaurants. People did not went out. People did not go to concerts. They had a lot of money to spend. Where did they spend it? Online. They are home. They're spending it online. So e-commerce was just booming, and consumer demand went through the roof. And instead of shortage of imports, there is a surge of import last year. But operational manpower, last year when Corona hit US, it was a disaster. There was no truck driver, no port workers, 3PLs couldn't access containers because they did not have people to unload these containers. Truck drivers still get paid by the government. Some of them still stay at home because they get money for free. So there is a severe shortage of truck drivers up until today. Dock workers, port operators are still in huge backlog, and they are still understaffed. So that's basically what started this whole butterfly effect and kind of a snowball of surge in imports and decline in operational manpower. And you have the perfect storm. And we are, today, the situation is even worse, I would say much worse than Q4 2020. Right at the Q4 season, out of COVID, situation was even better than now because it just doesn't get improved. And some of the big shipping line CEOs and shipping line owners, they were interviewed in the past couple of weeks, and they say this situation might last throughout 2022 as well. Because again, there is a huge surge in demand. There is a huge surge in imports, and there is the container manufacturing, vessel manufacturing cannot keep up with that surge of containers going out.
They don't have a reason to.
Yeah.
They don't have a reason to, because they continue producing
hundreds of millions of dollars in profits. Because look, before COVID, the container from Ningbo or Shanghai to LA, we're looking at $1,600, $1,800, $2,000. You're looking at now at $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a container. Yeah. And even though the rates are high, people are willing to pay much more. Right now, the market, when people come to me today, new clients say, hey, we are looking for a good price. There is no good price in the market. If you want to pay a good price, you won't move your product. People will pay more than you just to move the products. You got a quote for $9,000 a container. Somebody will come and pay $12,000 just to get your spot. Because a lot of people are, many retailers and online retailers, they don't nickel and dime because the products are selling for a higher retail price. When you sell a product for $100, $200, adding another $10 to your unit price, $15, it doesn't make such a difference compared to when your selling price is $30 or $25. So a lot of these importers will put more money just to have the product move, just to have the vessel on time and the container on a vessel. So it's funny because I've never thought I would say that to clients, but when clients come to us today and say, hey, we are not happy with the prices we have with our previous forwarder, we want to see your prices, we say, I don't want to be cheaper because I want to be showing, I want to perform, I want to give performance, I want to give you booking. I will not go and buy the cheapest price. I will pay whatever it takes to put your products on the vessel. And that's an absurd way, because you're telling your client, I'm going to sell you for more money than you paid, but I will provide you your products. And that's an interesting situation. So yeah, the whole business is changing. The whole business is shifting, changing, disrupted. Look at transit time. Transit time to LA is 16, 17 days on vessel, port to port, from departure to arrival. But now you're looking at 16 days. The days has not changed. It's still 16 days on the water, but you went from the time the vessel arrived in Los Angeles or Long Beach, you have between 7 to 12 days of waiting time from the actual arrival until the container is on the floor. So that's double the transit time. If you need to go to Chicago, Dallas, Kansas, any inland port, you now need to wait for rail, which is even more. The situation there is even more crazy with from what's going on in the port. There is a severe shortage of rail cars and a huge delay there. A container to Dallas, it used to be 30 days port to port. We're looking at about 60, 65 days now. That's double the transit time. So that's even more crazier. And not to mention, it can come up to $15,000 just to ship that container to Dallas or Chicago, and you probably won't have booking for the next 30, 40 days. So yeah, that's definitely requires some adjustments, internal adjustments with those sellers on where they place their 3PLs. Let's say you have a 3PL in Dallas. I'm not sure that it's the right decision right now, yeah, because the transit time is just double. If you place your 3PL around the coastline, you'll have a much better transit time. So this whole disruption really it urges sellers, Amazon sellers, to rethink their whole logistics operation, to rethink their whole structure. Where did they place their 3PLs? Where do they need booking for? Some of them actually, they have an Amazon warehouse in Dallas. They need to ship products to Dallas. Some of them will stop in Los Angeles and we will truck it. And it will cost thousands and thousands of dollars more. But they will pay it because they will have a go-to-market, a better go-to-market time than just doing what they used to do a year ago. So yeah, that's situation is it's not easy. It's not simple.
Yeah, we sort of built this e-commerce giant, and I had a post on LinkedIn about this also, but it's not necessarily a bubble, I wouldn't say, but almost on a facade of this just-in-time manufacturing and being so reliant on it, right? Where every e-commerce seller was very comfortable with just shipping it, getting it manufactured 30 days. They might have penalties in their contract saying, if I don't have it within X amount of days, I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars, or take off certain invoice value. And they anticipated, those 16 days to LA, another week to cross through customs or any additional potential issues. But it's kind of a facade, right? We built this supply chain on the backs of giants, Target, Walmart's, Sony, all these major corporations that built a beautiful supply chain, and we're just sort of taking advantage of in e-commerce. Well, now e-commerce has outgrown that without the innovation that's necessary behind it, right? Without the technologies that you were talking about that makes these processes simpler. And we are, moving. It's definitely a difficult conversation to have when it's, hey, you're not going to be looking for the cheapest, when everything is very transactional now. It is no longer, hey, I'm looking for the best partner to get, not even guarantee, because there's no guarantees nowadays, but to at least try to find me a spot for a reasonable price on that, for a container to get through the booking, to get onto the boat itself, and to make sure that boat is actually going to get to the port around when you estimate it. And then we see this huge shift, right? From LA, a lot of shippers that were going to LA previously started to shift to Dallas. And then once we saw that whole shift to Dallas, that's when we started seeing $13,000 to $15,000 containers, which is insane. But it's a game of survival, right? Only the best payers are gonna win. Those that aren't willing to pay, they're not going to have inventory. No one's going to remember their brand. Everyone's going to remember the brand that they kept buying throughout the pandemic, throughout the ridiculous supply chain that we have nowadays. And that's where, we're going to see the most profitable also Amazon exits, and e-commerce exits. But yeah, it's ridiculous, man. It's something I've never seen. I'm sure you've never seen. Retail giants have also never expected.
Nobody has ever seen that before. And I've seen, and I know for internal resources, that the giants they are now manufacturing for peak season 2022 because everything is so disrupted. The giants are placing their orders and their bookings for peak season next year. Right now, it's crazy. It's never been this way. Right now, if you haven't started producing your products for Q4 this year, you're probably too late. Because lead time is extended. Getting out of China is crazy. And it's not going to get any better. Q4 is just around the corner. It's just going to get worse. So if it takes a month to get out of China right now, and it takes 30, 40, and sometimes 50 days for production, if you're in Dallas, another 60 days, we the year is ended. It's too late. And I hope most of the medium and big size Amazon seller realize that this is the time, or sometimes it's even too late, even today, to place your Christmas orders, your Q4 orders. And I'm pretty sure it's gonna be even more congestion, and even the pressure will be very high a month, 2 months from now, and people will just go crazy because they'll understand that they're gonna miss their hot selling season, and it's gonna be more stress for us, fun.
Well, I think that's the difference, right? E-commerce has sort of also been built on chaos. You see sellers that are looking to book it within a week, and you tell them, hey, you're not going to get a booking for 4 to 5 weeks. And that's not even a guarantee, because 4 to 5 weeks, that port might be congested. That container might not be 9,000, might be 13,000, and you're just not willing to pay it. It's sort of built on chaos. Whereas when you're working with the larger and more established retailers, they are planning for 2022. They're like, well, okay, I'm going to talk to my customers. I'm going to figure out, hey, through these distributors, where are your forecasts? What should my manufacturers be producing? Can I store in China? Can I trickle some of these through LCLs versus just an FCL to guarantee just some level of inventory? It's all about maturity. And I think, I hate to say it, but we almost needed a disruption like this in supply chain for, I think, the vast industry to realize that we do have to mature as a whole, not just in one sector of PPC or marketing or product selection, or not just on the manufacturing, but as a whole with supply chain. What would you advise that e-commerce sellers do nowadays when it comes to international shipping?
Well, first of all, planning would be the key here, all right? You gotta plan, and you gotta double your transit time. You gotta schedule a meeting with your freight forwarder, tell them you're planning, and start working on a plan. That's what I would do today, right? You have your Q4 orders. If they are not on their way, you want to schedule a meeting with your freight forwarder, whether it's face-to-face or whether it's a Zoom. You want to schedule a meeting, tell them about your plan, tell them about your production plans, and find out and tell them about your expectation. What's your budget expectations and what your transit time expectations, and see if it matches reality, right? You gotta face reality. It doesn't help you to cover behind, to put your head in the sand. It won't help. You gotta face reality that everything has changes, prices has changes, supply chain changes, transit time changes. So you gotta face it right now, plan it, and see how you can meet your goals. And you'll obviously need adjustments, and you'll probably need the guidance of your freight forwarder, right? Tell them realistically what you expect, and they'll tell you what you should expect, and you need to try to find that way in the middle. Just like you said, there might be a better option to ship some of the products by LCL because it'll likely to move faster these days, and the rest of it, plan for an FCL. Some of it will have to move by air. You might need some warehousing in China to keep the products there. You want to make sure your 3PLs are up for it, and they have enough space for you. You want to make sure your 3PLs are positioned properly in the States to avoid those inland ports. So you wanna lay out your plan and sit with professionals and with your service providers and see how you can make a reality out of this plan. Now, adjustments will need to be made. That's for sure. But the most important tip I could give is make sure you do it now, like right now. Put your plan on paper, on an Excel file, whatever, and sit down with your service provider and build the plan according to reality or according to the new situation. That's what I would do if I were an Amazon seller right now.
Mm. That's scary stuff. It's scary. Yeah, it's scary more so because I think it's a mindset that not too many online retailers tend to have. They don't like to, I wouldn't say, and I don't want to generalize anyone, but I would say they're less receptive to hearing some of the harsh realities, exactly, as opposed to when you might be working with someone that's a little bit more established, or maybe one of the giants or one of the Fortune companies.
But that's what differentiates the real entrepreneurs than the ones who won't survive this whole thing. Yeah, you gotta understand everybody's in the same boat here. Everybody's experiencing delays. Everybody's experiencing the transit times, and everybody's experiencing the new prices in the market. The ones to survive are the ones to face reality, sooner than later, and plan accordingly and adjust. You gotta be flexible. As an entrepreneur, business is shifting, business is changing. We all know that. We see what happens with Amazon. Amazon all of a sudden one morning decided that they don't want to be a warehouse anymore. They don't want moving products. That's why the new restrictions and the new algorithms to calculate how fast you sell and what's your turnaround time on your product, and all of a sudden now your whole business changes. And that was last year. You need a 3PL, and we are in a new reality again, where not only you need a 3PL and Amazon is not a warehouse anymore, now you need to change everything you knew. And again, the ones that survived last year crisis with Amazon, shutting down shipment creation options and restriction, storage restrictions and all of that, the ones to survive and come out better and stronger are the ones who took action at that same morning. Found a 3PL, started move everything to a 3PL, did not panic. You cannot panic. You're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you cannot panic. You gotta lay down your plan, face reality, no matter how harsh it is or no matter how hard it is. If you won't act and if you won't, you won't wake up very fast and act accordingly, taking decisions, you probably won't survive it. Your business won't survive it. And sometimes hard decision must be taken. I've seen a lot of sellers, some of them are very big, just killing a whole line of products because the selling prices are low, these are cheap products, and the shipping cost doesn't add up anymore. And they killed that product because that was the right decision to do. Because the market sentiment is 6 months ahead. It's not gonna get better. It's even gonna get worse. And if you bring it back to August 2020, last year, we all thought that by April, March 2021, everything will get back to normal. Everything will be fine again, and we will all get back to normal. And guess what? We are not there. We are far from normal. We are even worse than what we have, and no one expected that. So nobody can tell you what happens tomorrow. Even if we think we know, just like we thought in COVID, we're gonna see a decline, and we started firing up people and laying off people because we thought, hey, Amazon closed its doors. Nobody can ship to Amazon anymore. We're not gonna have any shipments, And all of a sudden, the exact opposite happened. We had our biggest year sales-wise by far ever, and we just thought we're gonna get killed, slashed this year, last year. So nobody knows what's happening, and nobody knows what will happen and when, but you need to look at the situation as a reality. Don't wait for it to get better, and don't wait for it to go away, because this is the reality, and now you need to adjust your business according to that reality. If it gets better, fine, you'll adjust again. And that's what's being a true entrepreneur means for me. You gotta be very, very flexible. Very, very flexible, because market is changing, market is shifting, business is changing, business is shifting. What was right yesterday doesn't necessarily mean it's right today. And if you're slow to move, if you're slow to adjust, you'll just won't survive it. And that's my 2 cents on the situation, and that's what I did with my business. We had to you have to switch, you have to build new systems, you have to build new workflows. The way you work, the way we book containers is changed. Like we booked containers 6 months ago. The whole thing is changed. You gotta change whole departments. You gotta build new SOPs all over, and we might need to rebuild it again tomorrow because it'll change again. But it is what it is. That's the cost of doing business, man.
Mm-hmm. That's very
so
true.
Beautifully put. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a chance to. Some might see it as problems, and it's some people hate hearing this, but a problem typically is an opportunity, right? And whether that's an opportunity to build something new or to build something better that your competitor might not be able to build and build it faster, is great. But it's also, I think, one important thing. It's important to talk about. It's a time to build relationships. And it's a time to build, the right network of partners, more importantly than ever, because we were, like you said, at the beginning, when we think of online sellers, and it is just the reality of online sellers, of a lot of them, the majority of them, I would say, they are just one-man shows. They want to do it themselves. They want to partake in every supplier communication, they want to get 20 different freight forwarders to quote out their freight. They want to manage all the FBA inventory levels, but it's nearly impossible now. And that's why when I say, this industry is starting to mature, it's just because of that. Because when you look at those larger giants, they have partners. They have purchasing managers just to deal with suppliers. They have logistics managers just to deal with freight forwarders. They're not going directly to shipping carriers typically to try to get containers unless they're massive, right?
But that's beautiful, because I've started to see it, and it's so vividly clear now, because I've talked to a lot of people who did exits, who sold their business. A lot of our clients being bought by the aggregators, and you know what they do? You see how they mature, because they sold the business. They are all of a sudden a one-man show again, but now they're gonna be back in business. They now produce new products, but all of a sudden they hire people, they hire logistics manager, and they put the right team around them, and they put money up front. They pay suppliers properly, they manufacture proper quantities, they hire people, they have a logistics manager, and again, they are a one-man show. They started from scratch, but you see how they do it properly now. When they just started, and it's not only about now they have capital because they sold the business, it's a mindset. And again, it's a maturity of an Amazon seller, and you gotta go through that journey, I guess, because it's very hard when you're just starting out, it's your first product. It's nearly impossible for a person to get a logistics manager and get a professional PPC and a photographer or whatever, and everybody is nickeling and diming, trying to find the best quote and the best price for this and that. But the more you grow, and after you do it all over again, you see how people are doing it properly now, because they are now much more mature in doing this business. They know what they're doing. They know what kind of people they need around them. They know what kind of team they need to build. And that's how they are able to scale, again, from scratch, much faster. And that's beautiful to see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's crazy.
I know. Well, I'm just thinking, I feel like this conversation could go for like another 2 hours if we let it.
It could. I mean, I know you're busy, Refael. Yeah, I would love to keep the conversation.
My wife is calling me to go back home to help her with the kids. That's my second shift, and then I do my third shift after the kids are going to sleep. I sit back and start working with the US office and with the teams around the world.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Well, we've got time for one last little tidbit, one last little topic. Let's talk about that Suez Canal. Are we going to get another boat stuck, do you think? Or did everybody
read an article yesterday that they are starting to widen the whole canal.
I was going to ask if you'd seen that. They were going to widen it and I think deepen it too.
Yeah, they are starting to work on that, because that Suez Canal is a very crucial artery. It's a very crucial trade lane. It's one of the most important trade lanes of the world. Everything that goes from India to the US goes through Suez Canal, almost everything. Everything that goes from Asia to Europe goes through that canal. Everything that goes from Asia to, the Arab Gulf, and everything is there. And it's like half of the world trade is going there. And having that clog, it's the world can't have this again. This is mainly what caused what we are facing right now, because that add up to the to the severe lack of containers, because again, vessel gets stuck. A lot of vessels actually saw that clog and started doing the whole round. They didn't wait. They started going through, circling the whole thing and going to Europe from the upper turn. So
that's a dangerous route.
That's a crazy longer route. And again, these vessels are, they take tens of thousands of containers each vessel, and every delay like that, it has an effect on the market. So yeah, hopefully we won't see it again. I don't remember when this happened before. I don't even know if it happened, if it's ever happened. Another thing I think we should mention is that 2020 was a record year in the number of containers that fell to sea. I don't know why. It doesn't have a reasonable reason, but it was a record year of containers that got lost at sea. And we had a lot of clients with containers on these vessels. And luckily, our containers was not lost at sea, but some of these vessels had, the effect was that they had to stop that route and go to the nearest port to assess the damages, start counting all the containers, and you're looking at about 2-3 month delay. And that raised up the whole insurance case. And I wrote up a very interesting article explaining Amazon said, what does it mean to have cargo insurance? What does it mean when you don't have a cargo insurance? That's funny. And that's an interesting story. There is a term called general average in shipping and insurance that says that, let's say the vessel that lost 1,800 containers in November last year, from its way from Shenzhen to Los Angeles, if you had a container and you did not take an external insurance from your freight forwarder, that ship had to go through a lot of repairs in Japan. They stopped the route, take it back to Japan, to the nearest port in Japan, fixed it, worked on it, and the shipping line legally can call a general average when they basically say that here are the damages, $30 million damages, this is the bill. Now everybody in this vessel, every importer on this vessel has got to share that bill. The importers will pay that bill. Now, if you did not have an insurance, you might have your product lost and you'll get a bill for a couple of grand for fixing the vessel. That's called general average. Not a lot of people know that, but where there are damages, the ship owner can call a general average, and the importers, the people who are on that vessel, will split the bill based on how many containers you had. So it's an interesting story. Think about that. You lose a container at sea, your container is lost, you're not insured, and you get a bill to pay for the vessel.
How much is insurance? What would you say percentage-wise of an invoice value?
Insurance is based on the cargo value, and insurance should cost between 0.2% to 0.5%. All right, that's less than 1%. Yeah, 0.2 to 0.5% of cargo value plus shipping cost. We usually insure SIF value. So if you lose your product, you get your shipping cost because you'll pay shipping. Even if you lose your product, you need to still pay the shipping. So you usually insure SIF value, shipping cost plus product cost, and usually the price would be, we charge 0.3%. 0.3% from SIF value. That's what we charge for insurance with a minimum of 55 or 35, depends if it's an air or SIF rate. But that's what you should expect paying. I've seen people charge 2%, 1%. That's crazy high. Nobody should pay that. The usual rates would be between 0.2 to 0.5% from SIF value.
And SIF value, for those of you that might not know, is CIF. So that's what cargo, insurance, and freight.
Cargo,
right? From the port to port.
Insurance and freight, but yeah, usually it's cargo value and freight cost. Insurance is 50 bucks, so it's not really, it's not really that big amount.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I feel like I did hear that a lot, like on the Facebook groups of just containers falling off of boats. I guess that was just 2020 having more fun with us.
I think that was one of the biggest accidents that happened, that 1,800 containers just fell to the sea and, they are lost, yeah? So yeah, it sucks. It's very important to have your own insurance. Again, if you don't purchase insurance on your shipping quote, you don't ask for insurance, you probably won't be insured. And you'll be insured by the bill of lading terms, which is ridiculous. If your cargo value is, I don't know, 100 grand, you'll probably get $2,000 from the shipping company. That's the rule. It's $1 per kilo, something like that, something ridiculously low. So if you don't purchase insurance on your shipping quote, if you don't ask for insurance, don't assume your cargo is insured, because it's not. Right? It's very, very important, because many people does not know that. Because when I speak to a lot of sellers, they say, "Oh, well, my cargo is not insured." No, if you don't buy insurance, if you don't pay for it, it's not insured. It's insured, but it's ridiculously low. It's a joke. So it's very cheap, and it gives you peace of mind. So insurance is very, very, very important.
And I know we're at the top of the hour, but I know one question that I see a lot of, and it's hard to generalize, in my opinion, because it could be a range depending on volume, depending on weight, depending on where it's even going. But what would you say right now, today in May of 2021, is about an average cost per kilogram for air freight, let's say from Ningbo to LA or to somewhere else in the US?
That's a good question. Prices by air are high right now. They are changing almost every couple of days. We're looking at around $8, $9, $10 a kilo today. Depends, how much freight you move and where you're moving it from. Ningbo is not a good airport because it's a very small airport to the US. So Shanghai would be a better option than Ningbo. Shenzhen, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Beijing would be the best airports to move products out of. Beijing usually is the cheapest out of China. But yeah, you're looking at about $7 to $10 a kilo, and I'm talking about pure air freight, airport to airport, not including pickups, deliveries, custom clearances, yada, yada, yada. So you're looking at $7 to $10 a kilo these days, but it's gonna go up.
It's been fluctuating. Yeah. I've seen it go as high as like $13, $14 even per kilo.
No, it used to be $13 a kilo about a month ago when Apple moved a lot of product. When there is a big movement, the juggernauts, when they move product, Apple, for example, they move their majority of the products by air from China, and they twice a year they just clog the whole industry. And when Apple moves product, there is just no space, and price go through the roof for about 2 to 3 weeks. So we were there in $13, $14 a kilo about a month ago. We are back to normal levels now, which is $7 to $10 a kilo. Air Express, we move a lot of products by Air Express, FedEx, UPS, DHL. We have huge contracts with these guys. We move 100 to 150 tons per month. But these guys, the rates are much better. They are faster, but they have no capacity anymore. So they will limit you. For example, we move 5 to 6 tons a day, and all of a sudden this week, for example, they put a new restriction where our whole account can move 300 kilos a day. And we move 6 tons a day usually. And
wow.
So it's all disrupted. It's all disrupted.
And it's a chain. So if it's disrupted up there, you're going to trickle down to the next one. We're going to talk about domestic trucking or ports or clearance through those different airports, and then the truckers to the 3PLs, from the 3PLs getting out to the customers. I mean, I can't wait to see. Well, it's also a little fucked up to say, but it's going to be interesting to see how we're able to manage Prime Day by itself with 3PLs and outbound shipments, and then not even to mention holiday season is right around the corner. I mean, people see it as 6-7 months out. It is right around the corner. So we'll see how it all goes.
Supply chain wise, it is right now.
Yeah.
Supply chain wise, right now is the time to act on your Q4 inventory, shipping, booking, you name it, right now. But I know deep in my heart, I know that most sellers don't even think that it's now, but it's actually right now. And that's why I said earlier, we're going to see a lot of stress in the next month and 2 months when people will realize that they are not going to make it. And we're going to, the heat comes to us. We get the screams.
Yeah, we do. Trust me, I'm right there with you. And then Chinese New Year.
Yeah,
That's a whole nother story. And actually, I'd love to have you back on for Chinese New Year. We could talk that through here in the next month or so.
Another 2 hours just on Chinese New Year.
Oh, yeah.
Human migration in the world. I've studied Chinese New Year and I've been heavily involved in that for many years. So I have a lot of insights about. It's a very interesting season, Chinese New Year, and it's a holiday for most of us. So it's also
yes.
It's not a holiday because we are Chinese. It's a holiday because our clients. So
exactly.
It's a downtime.
It's a good time to go to a vacation.
Yeah.
Well, we will definitely have you back on for that conversation. Then I know that that'll be really good to get some of the information from the research and everything that you've done. But before we sign off, why don't you let folks know where they can get a hold of you if they have any questions about the information that you shared today?
I'm usually very active online, Facebook, LinkedIn. People can email me. If you want to get in touch, just Google Unicargo or just on Facebook, search Unicargo. You can go directly to our customer service reps, our service help desk, whatever. If you need me in particular, you can look up my personal name on Facebook, add me, hit me up. I'm always available. I might take some time to answer, but I always answer. It might take a day, it might take two, but I always answer. I'm very active. I'm always very connected to our clients and to the community in general. I'm trying to stay as active as possible, answering questions and on Facebook groups and providing as much information as I can when I can. So I'm all out there. Just search for me.
That's awesome. And thank you so much, Refael, for being here with us today. We're going to link the URL for your website in the description of the video and of the audio experience. And again, the company is Unicargo, Unicargo. And if you liked what you heard today, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and just, get the information out there, you guys. Like Refael said before, this is all about providing value and getting as much information out there from leaders in supply chain and e-commerce like Refael with Unicargo. So gentlemen, thank you both so much for being here, and we will see everybody tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.